The book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, tells the story of the beginning. It tells us about the creation of the world and the creation of the first humans, Adam and Eve. This story takes place in the Garden of Eden, a paradise made by God. Imagine a garden filled with every kind of tree, bearing delicious fruit. A river flowed through this garden, sparkling in the sunlight. Birds sang in the trees, and animals roamed freely. This was Eden, a place of peace and beauty. Here, there was no pain, no suffering, only harmony between God and his creation. In this paradise lived Adam and Eve, the first man and woman. God created Adam from the dust of the ground and breathed life into him. Eve, God created from Adam's rib, a symbol of their close connection. Adam and Eve were given dominion over all living things. God walked with them in the cool of the evening, their relationship built on love, trust and obedience. God gave Adam and Eve only one rule: they must not eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This tree, standing tall in the middle of the garden, represented a boundary set by God, a test of their free will and their trust in his goodness. One day, a serpent, described as cunning and crafty, approached Eve. Slithering through the garden, the serpent whispered doubts into Eve's heart. He questioned God's commands, suggesting that God was holding them back from something wonderful. The serpent told Eve that if she ate the fruit, she would become like God, knowing good and evil. Eve, tempted by the serpent's words and the fruit's allure, gave in. She took a bite and then gave some to Adam, who also ate it. In that moment, everything changed. They had disobeyed God's direct command, choosing their own will over his. Section 4, the forbidden fruit, a bite into sin. The act of eating the forbidden fruit was not simply disobeying a rule. It was a rejection of God's authority and a desire to be their own gods. The immediate consequence was a profound sense of shame and fear. They realized they were naked and tried to hide from God. When God came looking for them, they were afraid. They tried to blame each other and even the serpent for their actions. God, deeply saddened by their disobedience, knew that they had brought sin into the world, and with sin came consequences. Section 5, exile from Eden. Immediate consequences. God punished Adam and Eve for their disobedience. Adam would now toil the land for food, and Eve would experience pain in childbirth. The serpent was cursed to crawl on his belly. But the most significant consequence was their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. No longer could they enjoy the perfect fellowship they once had with God in paradise. They were cast out into the world, forced to confront the hardships and challenges that came with their newfound knowledge of good and evil. Section 6, A World Inherited Sin's Long Shadow. This story of Adam and Eve is not just about a historical event. It's a powerful metaphor for the human condition. Just like Adam and Eve, we are all susceptible to temptation. We all make choices that separate us from God. We all experience the consequences of sin, both individually and collectively. The world we live in is a reflection of that first sin. Pain, suffering, injustice, and death are all reminders of our broken relationship with God. The story of Adam and Eve reminds us that we are not perfect beings. We are capable of great love, but also of great selfishness. Section 7, Echoes of Eden, Timeless Lessons. Despite the consequences of their sin, God did not abandon Adam and Eve. He provided them with clothing and continued to interact with them. This act of grace offers hope for humanity. Even in our brokenness, God continues to love us and offer us a way back to him. The story of the fall of mankind in the Garden of Eden is a story about choice, consequence, and ultimately hope. It's a story that continues to resonate with us today, reminding us of our need for God's grace and forgiveness.